Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Hoppy Hour. This is your host, Luis Franco, and we are ready to start this new series of episodes now in English, starting this year with a lot of um, excitement. And as you can see, we have Saul back, the beloved host of this show. Saul, how are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing great, Luis. I'm so happy to be back. It's been a wild ride, a while since been doing Happy Hour, and I'm just can say that I'm excited to co-host again with you, my friend.
Of course. Uh, Excited too, and it's nice to have you back. You were missing some episodes, and you made things hard to me because I have to basically take both seats at the same time, and it's kind of interesting how things went on the last episode. But well, let's start this show. The topic for today is candidate experience, and we have. I want to say hello to Daniel. He's in the chat, and Jimena glad to have you back. So, and yeah, let's get ready for this live. Are we gonna be having as guests? So
We have a couple of great guests. Scott Powers, who is the customer director at Zipdev, if I'm not mistaken, Luis, and Frank Bello, who is the CEO of Haystack Pro. Can you share a little bit more about what Haystack Pro is, Luis? Because it sounds like an exciting new company.
yeah, Haystack Pro is a startup that is focusing on a customer attraction tool. We're basically building or we already built a nice tool for, let's say, offline interviews where you can actually have your candidates to answer some questions before you have to actually sync up with them. Maybe the Frank or Scott is gonna talk about more in depth, but let's welcome Frank and Scott to this episode. Frank, welcome.
Thanks, Luis. Saul, pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here and for being able to participate on this live and to share your experience, because we talked about this topic some days ago, and you guys for sure have a lot of things to share to our audience. So why don't you talk about your background a little bit? Can you guys hear me okay in the chat? Can you confirm if I'm okay, because I'm having some messages that maybe my audio is a bit robotic, but let me try to fix it while we hear Frank and Scott.
Sure. I can begin if you like. So my name is Frank Del Bello. I have been a small business owner for a little bit over 20 years. And really, I built Haystack. The concept of it was to solve my own challenges that I faced as an employer during hiring. So I've done hundreds, if not over 1,000 interviews in my career, hiring for all different types of positions, and thought years ago there's got to be a better way to bring candidates on board than the way that I was doing it at the time, and also got to be a better way to attract candidates to my positions that were open than the traditional means. So that's what gave birth to Haystack, and I'm excited to talk about that. But in general, the candidate engagement experience as well. So I'll hand it over to you, Scott.
My name's Scott Powers. My background, when I was younger, I was more of an artistic type, I guess. So I've had a variety of different jobs to support that since I was young, in my 20s. So I guess really my expertise is being like an unsuccessful candidate or a candidate who's applied for maybe almost as many jobs as Frank has interviewed candidates for. So I work at Haystack as the customer success manager, dealing with the customers we bring on.
Nice, thank you.
Helping them, not dealing with them, helping.
So this is something I love about Hoppy Hour, that a recurrent theme is people who ventured out to have the successful business or try out having a business. So there's a lot of entrepreneurship, and something that goes hand in hand with entrepreneurship is having good customer relationships, right? Customer service, onboarding, etc. So it's amazing to have you guys here, Frank, Scott. Hopefully all of our viewers in Latam can learn a lot from both of you, for people who are trying to venture into entrepreneurship or people who are trying to have a great platform where they can actually serve their customers. So we hope to learn a lot from you on this podcast.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Where should we begin? Yeah.
All right. So Scott, you were mentioning that you have been applying for tons of jobs and having some experiences with that. Why don't you guys share with us some story about your experience that you have had, something memorable, something that you can remember to open this topic up.
Were you asking Scott or me, Luis? Sorry.
Both. I'm sure you as an employer, you can also share some stories too.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share a story that it's a defining one for me. 2.5 years ago, I was hiring for a key position at my company. It was director of sales and marketing, and we had a lot of challenges trying to find the right fit for that role. At the time, I had this perspective that I've since changed significantly, which is that candidates should jump through hoops to earn the job. And so you make it challenging for them to some degree so that you weed out anybody who's not really serious. And then when you finally make them an offer for the job, they are rewarded with this job. And it's a reward for all the effort that they put into making it through all of those hoops you set up, right? And they should be thrilled to be working for your company, and it's a celebration at that point. Well, hiring for this role, we set up.
Oh, looks like we're having trouble with
Haystack, actually.
Frank's having trouble with his connection. So in the meantime, maybe we can take that story. We can continue that story back. But Scott, how about you?
Well, when I came into Haystack,
I got dropped for a second there. Yeah, not sure what happened, but
Got you back.
yeah. So the way a one-way video interview works is questions pop up on the screen for a candidate, and then they answer while it records them. So it's not actually an interviewer. It's just a program that records them answering questions. And so we had our candidates complete this task. And One of them, when we were watching the videos, was an outstanding. He had every quality we were looking for in that director of sales and marketing role. And he was eloquent, he was energetic, he gave great examples of successful goals that he set in the past and how he achieved them. And I knew within the first 2 minutes of watching the videos that this is our guy. This is the person we need to lead us to that next level. And so we invited him to an interview, and face-to-face interview, and it went well, and then offered him the job. And come to find out, shortly after he accepted the position, that he wasn't really that interested in the job. We were ecstatic, and we thought, this guy's going to be perfect, and of course he's going to want to work for us. Of course he would love to work at our company. But we gave him a candidate experience that left a lot to be desired. In fact, his only experience with us prior to the face-to-face interview was going through this tedious task, impersonal task of recording himself answering questions. There was no human connection there at all. And so he shared after, once we started to develop a relationship, that for the first few months, he wasn't sure if he even wanted to continue working with us. And it all stemmed back to that candidate experience. He never got excited about the job, even though we were very excited about him. So that made me take a hard look at how we hire. Because when it comes to any business, there's two critical factors that determine your success. One is your customers. Who are your customers, and are they happy with your product? And the second is your employees. And when you look at the marketplace today, you'll see that, like, just in the hiring, just companies that hire in general, they spend 99% of their budget on marketing and maybe 1% on their hiring, even though they're really of equal value. The great employee will bring you new business just through word of mouth. If they're excited and engaged, they will bring you business. And like, there is so little attention spent on creating a great candidate experience. I mean, you think about companies putting together a $50,000 commercial to position a product in the right way with the right colors and the right music and all of these things to really drive home a positive experience for the customer when they associate, when they think of that company, just so that they're more likely to buy in the future. And then we don't do anything like that when it comes to hiring. It's like, all right, fill out this form and take this assessment test and jump through all these hoops. And so, my view of hiring has changed dramatically since then. And then I start to notice things in the market that stand out to support this idea that an investment in candidate experience and candidate engagement is one that will likely pay dividends for years to come. So if I could share, like, just how deep this problem is. I think the problem is one where most employers don't even realize they have it. Like, they have no idea that they have a candidate engagement issue. And it's been challenging for me and eye-opening for me to discover that was what was happening. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, but here are the real-world ramifications from that. So there was a new report from Gallup. It found that a lack of U.S. engagement in the workplace, so in the U.S., amounts to about $1.9 trillion in lost productivity. And they estimate from the people that they interviewed or surveyed that only 33% of employees noted that they were engaged. And workers feel increasingly disconnected as time goes on. And it's our contention at Haystack that this disengagement starts before these workers are even employees. It begins with the first impressions of the company during that candidate experience. And those first impressions are critical. And you just think about what it's like to be a human with first impressions. You meet somebody and they said something, or they're in a bad mood, and it rubbed you the wrong way. You may never really get to know that person, and you always think of them from that first time you met them. Like, there's something off about that person. And first impressions are so critical. And like, it could take you the rest of your life interacting with that person to change your initial judgment of them. So that's why it's so important to get the first impression stuff right, is because that's the foundation for your future relationship. If it's positive and they think of you in a positive way, or you think of them in a positive way, you're far more likely to build something meaningful. And that's just in like your day-to-day lives with friends and acquaintances. And so getting that right for an employer is so important. So sorry, I've been maybe rambling a little bit here, Luis. Let me hand it back over to you. Hand you back over the reins.
Go for it. This is great information.
Yeah, I mean, this is your episode. You're a special guest. We are just here learning from you guys, so don't worry. And yeah, I can totally relate to what you mentioned, because I've been through several processes of hiring too, and even for big companies, big tech companies, I think the most they have like the most annoying processes, because they think everyone wants to work for them. And maybe there's a lot of people that want to work for them, but there's some people that we actually prefer to work for a person-oriented company instead of a just how you say, instead of a big corporation that do not take this in count, like for the first steps, that, like you mentioned, you have to make the experience good to make a good very first impression, and first impressions matters in every day. So yeah, why not put that on the candidate experience on companies? Because that's how you attract people, right?
Well, Luis, offline, you shared with me that you applied for a job at like a big tech company. And can you maybe share like what that experience was like? Like, and more importantly, how it made you feel about the company?
It made me feel like maybe like I had to be applying, instead of applying for a job, I thought I was applying for a university, for a college or something. Like, you have to win this scholarship, and you have to do your best on this 3 months period of time where we're gonna be making a lot of tests, and you have to pass every single round, and you're gonna be competing against other 100 candidates, and if you make it, you can have the job. But if you have if you pass all the tests and all the process, it's not 100% guaranteed, because you have to, at the end, you have to talk with the team, and you have to make sure that everyone in the team likes you. And it's like,
Wow.
So my guess is that you had second thoughts during the process as to whether or not you want to work. Do I even want to work there? Right?
Yeah, and of course there's tons of companies where to work on. So in the meantime of that process, you get more offers on our companies, and at the end you go for the best offer, and you go and you select one company to work on where things are not tedious. Because one of the things that I hate about changing jobs is the tedious process of being interviewed like tons of times, being asked a lot of questions that in the day-to-day work you don't even need to know maybe everything that they are asking you, but they think that doing everything that specific they're gonna be finding the best engineers, but sometimes it's not like the case, you know. So in tech companies it's really hard to actually find a good company that cares about your process. And what I like about, for example, Zipdev, they actually, when they're saying no to you, they actually send you why, and send you like a guidance on what's your areas of opportunity. I find that really good, because not all of the companies actually care about when they say no to you, when they're not hiring you. They don't care about it. They just let you, they ghost you basically.
Yeah.
So and yeah, Daniel is mentioning on the chat that transparent communication, and I think that's a good point that companies should take care about.
So it seems like every industry is like bound to evolve, right? Like before, if you were a candidate, you looked at the newspaper listings, you saw a phone number, you got into a call, or you went, it's like, I saw this. Then it evolved, like in tech, do 200 code signal problems, and then they'll consider you. And it seems like Haystack is trying to move the industry, the hiring process, the industry of hiring candidates forward, right? So do you guys consider this as like the next step in what a good hiring experience should be?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about Haystack, but what I think is important to do is to lay some groundwork here. And, I was asking Luis how it made him feel going through those tedious steps for this big name company, and all of the competition that it creates and the pressure it creates for you to beat out everybody else, and that type of environment. It's important for you to acknowledge how you feel as an applicant or as a candidate in that environment, because that feeling is what you will attribute to the company. So employers out there who are listening to this, whatever you put your candidates through, that will shape their perception of your company, and they'll take those feelings and they'll apply it straight to you. So if you're frustrated, you're questioning if it's worth it to continue doing this, you've been forced to jump through all these hoops and do these tasks and do testing and never getting feedback as to if you're doing well or not, that's what it's going to be like as an employee at that company. So yeah, you naturally question, do I want to work there? Like I haven't spoken to anybody in the application process, and the interviews or maybe I had an interview and they were super cold and challenging me at every step of the way. And that's their way of weeding out the bad candidates, but it also shapes the impression for the good candidates when they come on board. And then that disengagement becomes automatic. They instantly, as soon as they start working there, they're like, okay, well, I know how I'm treated. Yeah, I got the cachet of working for a big name firm, but like, I'm just another number here, one of hundreds, if not thousands of people with similar skill sets, and they don't care about me, and I don't care about them. So like, that's what you're dealing with when you have a poor candidate experience. That's what you are setting the stage for. It is a foundation to a relationship. And if it's negative, those candidates will perceive you negatively as an employer. And even if that's not your intention, it will take you weeks and months to try to reverse that. You got to dig up that foundation to start from scratch, and that's a lot of work. And those first impressions, they last for a very long time.
And at that time, maybe the employee already heard another company that's more people oriented, and they actually just last for a few weeks on the job, and they move to another one because of the first impression, the first tedious, or not tedious, maybe just a bad impression of the company, and that they don't feel comfortable working there.
I think like kind of the common thread is that companies kind of imply that their time is more valuable than the candidate's time. And if you think about that on a personal level, like there's very few things that are more insulting than that. To say like, our time's more valuable, you do all this, you know, we're not going to read your resume, put all the information on your resume into a form so we could read it through the form, even though you have to submit your resume, take all these skills tests. You know, there can be so many hoops for like a good candidate to jump through that, you know, by the time your candidate pool has narrowed down, you're left with like people who are just like really desperate for a job. You know, because why would a great candidate who has things to do, who probably already has a job, who might be working for themselves on the side, why would they do all this stuff, especially since it's so lopsided? Like you're expected as a candidate to give like all your most personal information and experiences to the company, while a lot of times they're not giving you anything. They're not telling you like what it's like to work there, you know, what the day-to-day activities are going to be. A lot of times the only thing they have to communicate on an online job form is like a text job description. And a lot of times they don't even use that to describe the job. They use it to like condition the applicants. Like, we're looking for go-getters. We're a team who never says die, you know, and it's like, it's more of like conditioning than it is an actual description of what it's like to work there. So you're spending all this time on a company that has given you nothing. Like they've given you like really like no sense of what the job is like. So how do you even know you want to spend this time?
Yeah, 100%. And piggybacking up what Scott said, one of the comments, Ingrid, hi Ingrid, she's put it in some very good words, that the recruitment process of a company is a window for candidates to see a little of what they can expect once they get the job. So 100%. If they're not putting in the time with me or being cordial with me, how can I expect that to change once I'm inside the company? If they're asking me to submit the same information 3 times, how is it the communication inside the company? And you can start getting little glimpses of what might fail in the future. And as Scott said, if I'm already employed and I'm getting paid a good sum of money, and another company wants to hire me, and the recruitment process shows me all of this, maybe subconsciously, as Frank said, like, maybe I don't want to join. And they lost the opportunity to have a good employee that will deliver value inside of the company.
And so, like, what's even worse than losing out on the opportunity to bring somebody in who's an excellent candidate is the idea of bringing somebody in who isn't an excellent candidate, that had a rough first impression of your company. They're disengaged and they're wasting your time and money for months, sometimes years. And I've had multiple times in my life where I've seen the difference between someone who's an excellent worker and someone who isn't, and what they can do for your company. And it's night and day. We have one person who comes into our company and we grow exponentially because they're motivated. They love to come into the office. They love the people they work with. They're engaged. And then that same position a few years earlier, we would have no traction because the person is just not as committed and not as talented. And But really it's more about engagement than anything else. And that's where this multi-trillion-dollar loss is coming from every year, is this lack of engagement. And that's employees. And I think it starts all the way at the beginning, that first impression. And if you can create a great first impression, that will carry on. Even like it could last for years before they find out you're a terrible company.
Yeah.
Because you put the effort in early on to like just convince them that you're not. And they believe it. People believe it, and they hold on to that first impression. So they'll give you the benefit of the doubt for 30 mistakes that you make. But you give them a bad first impression. Now you've got to do things right 30 times to reverse their opinion of you. And so I think I've got some good news to share. And the good news to share for any employers that's out there is that this lack of engagement is so pervasive in the hiring industry. These hoops that they make candidates jump through, the lack of communication, lack of human interaction, it's so pervasive that the bar for applying for a job is incredibly low from candidates. And all you have to do as an employer is add a little bit of human touch to it. And now all of a sudden you stand out as an amazing person to work for, because they're comparing it to everything else they've seen. And everything else that they've seen has virtually no engagement at all. So all it takes is a little bit. And I think that, our best experiences when it comes to shaping those great first impressions are typically creating a human experience for a candidate. That's what most job postings lack, is you read text about the company, and then you fill out a form and you submit your resume. And then maybe you have to take an assessment test after that. And it's just, there's this void, and it's like a black hole. You don't know what's on the other side of that. But they keep sucking out more and more information from you. And it just leaves you with this terrible feeling as a candidate. Like, do I want to work there? I don't know if I want to work there. And that doubt, that is the problem. That little bit of doubt as a candidate, now all of a sudden you go to your first day at work and you're questioning it. Like, do I really want to work here? You always have one foot out the door. If I get offered a better job somewhere else, I'll take it, because I don't know if I like this company or not. So, I mean, Scott, you talked about with me just offline about like information lacking from a job description, and like how that can shape your view. Can you maybe speak to that? Like
well, yeah. I mean, like, if you have nothing there, like you're going to be. I mean, if think about just your personal relationships. If you're meeting somebody and kind of decide, is this person cool? Am I going to be friends with them? I don't know. And they're, they want to know everything about you, but they say absolutely nothing about themselves. Even when you ask, you're just not going to trust that person. It's just like, if you're not, why not just start, even if conditions are perfect, you might not line up still. You might say, oh, this, I like this company, but they're just not the right fit for me. I just don't think I get along. Even if like things are perfect, that might happen. So if you give like the candidate absolutely nothing or very little about your company, not only are you, the candidate's not going to really trust that company because they don't have anything to trust, but they're going to, just feel off the whole time.
That lingers, right? That feeling just lingers. Yeah. Well.
So you guys mentioned giving the experience a more human touch.
Yeah.
And you gave the example that giving more information about the company and more information about the role is a start. What would be a key differentiator of a humane hiring experience and a regular traditional hiring experience?
Okay. So one of the things we did early in my career when we were hiring is we conducted phone screenings with everyone, anybody who applied, and that's super tedious, right? It's a huge time investment. We would post an ad for a call center rep and have 300 people apply, and we would do 300 phone screenings. And it's exhausting. But as part of that phone screening, we would insist upon sharing information about our company's culture, about what it is that we're trying to accomplish as a business, and what the benefits are to someone coming on board. And the whole idea behind that was to get that engagement, right? So like someone gets excited about the job, because that excitement can carry them through for years of high levels of productivity. So I think that what I can say about how we approach something like that using Haystack is we try to form, and this is maybe a little plug for Haystack. What we do is we offer employers the ability to craft a very intentional message in the form of a video. And that there's a few videos, and they're short videos. The first one, for example, is tell us a little bit about your company. And the employer answers that question on video, and they record themselves. And the second question is, why would a candidate want to work for your company? So why work for us, right? And the employer answers that question too. So because that exchange between a candidate and an employer, they're both they should be trying to sell each other, right? Sell themselves to the other, in both ways. So with these videos that we have, anytime the candidate applies or reads a job description, they would go to fill out an application. And at that point, before they even fill out an application, those videos are posted. So now this is the first impression. And it's very intentional. And what I mean by that is that you could do it in a phone screening, you could do it in an interview, but you're always carrying baggage of whatever just happened in your day into those experiences. So during a phone screening, you could try to be excited, but if your wife just lost her job and you just found that out, and you're trying to show a positive face in a time where it's really difficult for you, that's going to come through, and there's going to be something off for that candidate. They're going to be like, I get the person's rubbing me the wrong way. Which is why people, when it comes to like products and they're selling their products in marketing and advertising, they invest heavily into creating the perfect customized first impression. And that's what we allow our customers to do, is create that very intentional customized first impression. And it may take a couple minutes to record your first video as an employer, but my goodness, it's like every single one of your candidates is having that same first impression. And it's likely that they'll walk away with a very positive view of your company because no one else is doing that. No one else, like when they apply for other jobs, they go to Indeed, they fill out a form, hit submit, and that's all that they have. And maybe there's a link to the employer's website, and they can go searching for videos and whatnot. But here is a video that's created by the employer, 2 videos at the very beginning, and then more videos scattered throughout the hiring process to keep that engagement up. But it gives them a voice and a face and an energy level and a personality to associate with that company that they just applied to. So it's a powerful tool to set that. And again, so the bar is very low. So just using that alone, and they watch a 2-minute video or a minute-long video or a couple of short videos coming from the business owner or the hiring manager, it goes a long way to tell you what it's going to be like to work there and gives you a reason to get excited about working there. Like these guys, because beyond just what's said in those videos, it's the fact that you even took the time to put a video together for your candidates that tells them what kind of a company you are and how much you care about the candidate experience. So therefore, how much you care about the employee experience. So we're very excited about this. This is a new way of approaching hiring. And I know that the trajectory eventually will go toward equal spend when it comes to marketing and advertising and client attraction, candidate experience. Like, it's just a matter of time. It has to go that way. And I want to get into the history of how we got to where we are today, but it's just the wrong approach. And advertising figured it out 40, 60 years ago, or whatever it was in the 50s, and like, they figured out how to position a product and a service to have that great first impression. Hiring just hasn't. They haven't kept up with it. It's always been just a tedious task to people who are not in HR. And to those who are in HR, it's a lack of tools to get you what you need, because you understand that a great candidate experience is critical to them starting off on the right foot and being engaged in your company. So,
Yeah.
so that's a little, I guess, preview of Haystack and some of the benefits there. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Well, even outside hiring, you're not going to hire 99% of the candidates, but that is it's like a free opportunity to, educate people about your company and to get them to like your company. And all the companies who are hiring have that opportunity. And instead of taking it, they're almost aggressively alienating the candidates. And, it's like, I remember when I was younger, I would apply, for restaurant jobs. Why I still, if you work in restaurants, you're almost always applying to get a better job. And I still to this day won't go into some restaurants that I applied at because I didn't like it. And it's a lot of these people, it might not be now, but maybe in 5 years, a lot of these people applying for your jobs might be in the position to be your customers. And if you're, they might not remember you, but if you're putting even subconsciously a bad taste in their mouth about your company, that's going to have long-term effects. It has to. And I think Frank's right. Companies are going to have to wake up and realize this, that, you're not only ruining your candidate engagement, you're not taking advantage of this free publicity, and more so than not take advantage of it, you're hurting your branding, and you're hurting your company's image.
I would imagine, Scott, that not only did you not go to those restaurants that treated you like garbage, but you would also share that experience with other people.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean,
now,
that's all you do. Gossip. If you're working a restaurant, that's, you're going to go back and tell all your coworkers, I applied at this place and they made me wait, in the bar area for 45 minutes or whatever the experience was. You're going to tell everybody. I mean,
and not only that, but friends and family, right? Who, hey, do you want to go try out this restaurant? Oh no, I had a horrible experience with them. And now none of those people, and they all think of that restaurant now in those terms as being a horrible experience. So that word of mouth can spread, and it's so toxic.
Yeah, unless you're paying for, a lot of marketing, you don't have that many opportunities to talk about your business, outside of paid marketing, and hiring is one of them. And the more I think about it, and all the jobs I applied for, it kind of makes me angry that it's so clear to me that companies could do, I mean, they should be making, even if they don't hire you, like Luis was talking about Zipdev, you should still walk away liking that company. I mean, that should be the company's goal, is even the people we reject, don't even interview right out of the gate, they should still have a good taste in their mouth about our company. And it's not even close to that right now, as a whole.
Yeah. Actually, you made me remember it's a topic here in Mexico. There's a company that sells sauces, or salsas in Spanish. And on one podcast from a popular comedian, another comedian told him like, "Oh, that sauce that you're tasting, I don't like it because I actually worked for them to do an advertisement and they never paid me." So that's a bad. Um, he was basically hired by them, but they never paid him. So that since that those comedians are pretty popular here in Mexico, now this company is pretty much hated by everyone.
Yeah, the stock went down by a lot, like an incredible margin. I think, guys, it's a good time to read the comments. We have some great questions, some great interaction. Mauricio Rocha says hello. Hi, Mauricio. Manuel Cervantes says sup, Manuel. And we have some great questions from Daniel Altenberg and Jimena Salcido. So we'll read them to you and answer. Maybe Scott, you might want to take one, and Frank, you want to take the other one? Does that sound fine? Cool.
That sounds great. Yeah.
So this is one for Scott. What do you think? Oh, sorry. What metrics or indicators do you recommend companies use to measure the success of their candidate experience initiatives?
What metrics should they use to measure candidate experience? That's a great question. As far as metrics with the candidate experience, I would say they should really be looking at like I'm not sure, like follow-ups mainly. Are these people still engaged? Are they coming back, asking you questions? I'm sorry?
I can jump in for a second here. Yeah, I think that
Please.
I think that like one of the best ways to measure the effectiveness, if I understood the question correctly, about your candidate engagement, is speaking with people that you've hired about their experience once you've made the job offer, they've accepted it, and the risk is gone, right? The risk of not getting the job is taken out of the equation. I think generally speaking, having a survey that they can fill out and in a non-threatening way will get you some pretty honest feedback about the things they liked and they didn't like. And you want to do it as early on as possible in order to for them to remember those steps. Because if it's a terrible experience, they're going to want to put it out of their mind as quickly as possible. And so I think the timeliness of that survey is really important, but should give you some gems there. Like what was it that was off-putting? You ask questions like that, and it may be less, maybe a more subjective information that you're receiving, but it's very valuable nonetheless. When we were doing with our one-way video interview, we would interview candidates to get a feel for whether or not they like the experience. And quickly after asking a few of them, you come to find that it's without any employer videos, it feels unbalanced to them. It feels like you're asking them to do a lot of things that you're not willing to do as an employer. And so, that would be step number 2, which is that if you want to collect more information, you go outside of your organization and ask those candidates who applied what their experience, if they're willing to share a little bit about their experience. And oftentimes, like, you can do that yourself by sending out a survey, and you'll probably get either the glowing experiences or a lot of the super negative ones. But you could also hire an outside firm to do those surveys. We've done things like that, and it's been very effective to try to like see where you can fine tune things.
Yeah.
Jimena, I think hopefully that answers your question. And sorry, Luis, I interrupted you.
I was gonna say, yeah, follow up one-on-ones is actually a good step. Like I remember, for the viewers that don't know, I actually worked with Frank and Scott at Haystack. So I remember the first thing Frank asked me was, how was your process? And I thought that was interesting that you actually cared about it. And I mean, it's the core of our tool, of course. And another thing that I like is that whenever we discuss a new feature or a new change, we we just remember to to put ourselves on the perspective of candidates and the perspective of employees, and that's what I really like about working on this project, that we're actually we don't forget about the experience, right? We're always taking care of it. And yeah, I'm gonna read another question, the question from Daniel.
Yeah.
And he's asking, what do you think the landscape of interviewing will look like with AI, artificial intelligence?
Yeah, that's a polarizing topic. There's short term and there's long term. I think in the short term, if I were to give advice to businesses, that you don't use AI, you don't allow AI to make decisions for you. I think you can use it to collect information, to present you with options, but when it comes to hiring, there are so many flaws with using AI tools that, and some of the leading ones on the marketplace, there's article after article, podcasts that talked about this ad nauseum, about the problems with bias and discrimination, and it's a real problem. Future, I love technology, and I see all kinds of opportunities using AI. It's not there yet, and it may not be that far off, but I wouldn't rely on it to make decisions, that's for sure. And we use all kinds of automation at Haystack, but we never make decisions for the customer. The employer themselves make the decisions based on their interactions with these candidates, whether they be face-to-face or one-way video interviews. They're the ones, the humans are making the decisions, and I think that that's where it should be right now. But again, tons of potential out there. It's exciting frontier that we're facing at the moment. So
yeah, I think there's some experiences that should stay human, and one of them should be the hiring process, where if I'm interviewed by an individual, at least with a one-way communication, and then I have to send it, or during a live interview, I would much rather have that to be a human experience than me with talking to a chat bot or something that synthesizes a voice to mimic. That just makes me not even trust the company up front.
Completely. And I'll tell you that, we've been talking about candidate experience and that engagement. Like, unless your job will be to interact with bots all day, or an AI avatar with a voice, or like, if you're going to spend all of your day, every day doing that, then yeah, you probably should have that as part of your interview process. But what's lost here is that employers who use these tools very well might find themselves, for the sake of efficiency, finding themselves in a place where they're further alienating their candidates. And that is just going to lead to more disengagement, which leads to less productivity and high turnover, cultural erosion. There's so many negative consequences for disengaged employees. And you end up finding yourself in a place where your business is slowly falling apart. You don't know why. People are quitting left and right, and it's a toxic work environment. Why? Because it all starts with very simple things. It's a lack of engagement from the beginning. People who work there aren't excited about their jobs, and then they talk about it with each other, and then it quickly becomes a uncontrolled disaster waiting to happen. So, I know we may be short on time here. One thing I would like to do is to just share, for anybody who's listening that is looking for a solution that may help them enhance that candidate engagement, please visit our website. You can watch some videos about how we try to accomplish that. It's haystackpro.com. And if you want to try it out, we are offering a full month free. So sign up, use our service, see if it makes the impact for you that we believe it will, and we know that it can, in terms of candidate engagement. And I think you'll become a customer and very happy as a customer. So haystackpro.com.
I just put the website in the comments to all of our viewers, so go check it out. You never know, maybe you have an issue with your hiring process, and Haystack is the solution that you need. So go check it out, guys. Another commenter says, Luis Gerardo, hello, thanks for the podcast. Very interesting topic. So thank you, Luis Gerardo, for your kind words.
You bet. I know it's interesting for employers to learn how they can do things better, but everybody at some point applied for a job, and there's pain. I know I can think back to when I applied for jobs. It's just pain involved when it comes to filling out the application, all the steps involved. You dread it. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. So thank you for having us here. Yeah.
No, thank you guys for being here and for the excitement of talking about this topic. I think we have learned a lot, and this, as you mentioned, I mean, everyone is at some time we've been facing with interviews and hiring process, and it's just good to know that there's some efforts to actually do this in a better form, and to have a better experience for every candidate. So thank you for being here. Thank you to all of our viewers and the people that were commenting on the chat. Good questions out there, and I don't know, maybe some words that you want to say before we leave. Some closing.
Sure. I guess some advice for employers. If you're wondering if you have a good candidate experience, if your hiring process is one that creates a positive candidate experience, ask yourself, would you put your customers through the same experience to purchase your product or service? And if the answer is no, which it always is no, then there's room for improvement, significant room for improvement. So thank you for taking the time with Scott and I today. Really appreciate being on the show. Love talking about this stuff. Really do. Oh, and we at Haystack very well may be launching our own podcast around the topic of customer experience. Not customer, sorry, candidate experience. So stay tuned for that, and we'll let you know if we launch one, which would likely be in the next few weeks if we do. So thanks again for your time.
No, thank you, and those last words were powerful. You should trademark those. Scott, something you want to add?
Yeah, I always think about a lot of times when we're talking about Haystack, I think about this episode of The Office where the salespeople were getting like a raise in commission, and everyone else who worked at the office was mad because they weren't sharing those profits. So they decided to have a meeting, and the salespeople decided to give the rest of the office like 3% or something. And they had a meeting to tell them this, and they put like this nice bagel spread on the table, and the rest of the office came in and they were just happy with the bagels. They didn't even end up giving them the commission because they were like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. This is nice. And it was just the idea that they were doing something, that they were like doing anything to show appreciation. And that's why I think Haystack could go a long way, is just like honestly, candidates, if they get used to Haystack, might not watch all these videos, But just because the fact that they're there at least shows you that, you're willing to do something to help the candidate experience. And thank you guys for having us on.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Frank, for being here. You were great guests. I cannot believe over an hour has passed. It was really fast.
And you guys made this very easy. We didn't have to ask you guys a lot of questions. But thanks for that.
Well, we really enjoyed it, and I could have gone on for hours. So this is fun. It's a lot of fun. Really appreciate it.
And guys, remember, Zipdev.com/careers. We are looking for mid-data engineers, senior DevOps engineers. If there's no position that you find interesting there, shoot up a message on Zipdev.com/careers. There's always openings, and if not, Zipdev will contact you once that career option is opened. Thank you for all our listeners. This show cannot be anything without you and our guests. Scott, Frank, you were great guests. Hopefully we can have a part 2. And yeah.
That'd be great. Just let us know.
Thank you so much, and see you guys on the next episode.
Ciao.